This is a full story. Puppy wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. The moment I saw Rockey, only 2 words came to mind: wanna sleep. They say if you want a story, take the initiative. So I spoke before thinking. I want to do it with you. A cold, limited edition silver bracelet clasped around my wrists. Let's go to the station for a chat first. The man in front of me spoke coldly. Just like any other night, I hit the bar, but I got it wrong, mistaking this officer for a different kind of guy. When his face dropped, I cringed. The next thing I knew, I was detained. What's your name? Dressed in a suit, he held a clipboard, expressionless. Officer, let me explain myself. Name, I was just trying to say we could be friends. Had I known who he was, I would have been subtler. I won't ask a third time. His words were cold as ice, and he sat there like a frost-covered statue. Haley. Fine, Haley. He lowered his gaze, jotting down my name with sharp, precise strokes. His handwriting matched his looks, neat and striking. Do you know what offense you committed? His penetrating gaze seemed to pull me in, trapping me like a vortex. Loving you? I saw his expression freeze, realizing my thoughts had slipped out again. I coughed, retracting my intense gaze. Miss Haley, I'm not joking. There's been a report about you promoting superstitions online. Care to explain? He put down his pen, fingers laced over the clipboard, his tone grave. Who's making things up? I'm a devout materialist. I'd never do such a thing. Believe in science is your username on that astrology forum, isn't it? Who exposed me? I quietly pulled out my phone, logged in, and tried to change my username. The moment I opened the homepage, hundreds of messages flooded in, all insults. I opened a few, they all had the same complaints. The wild part was, they even offered to curse people out for money. As I scrolled to the end, I finally understood the situation. A guy had asked me last week if he'd marry a rich beauty. Looking at his greasy hair and face and the piles of leftover takeout in his room, I replied that he should get real and focus on living well. Apparently, I hit a sore spot, and he'd been cursing at me ever since. Now, he'd even hired an army of trolls to flame me. I explained everything to the officer. Is this your primary job? It's just a hobby. I'm actually a photographer. Did you make any money from this? It's all free. He nodded, swiftly noting details and signing his name. Then he turned the clipboard toward me. Review it, sign if correct, and you can go. I skimmed through when my phone suddenly rang. It was my mother. I answered and picked up the pen. Daughter, did you meet the guy Aunt Mary introduced tonight? I took a sharp breath. Oh no. I forgot. I'd gone to the bar just to avoid a blind date. Yes, good. Rockey seems nice, right? I hear he works in a government office. You'd better hold on to this one. Wait, why does that name sound familiar? My eyes darted to his signature beside me. Mom, could you remind me of his name again? Rocky. And there it was on his clipboard. Mom, today doesn't feel very safe. Oh, stop with the nonsense. I hung up and stared straight at the man in front of me. Life is difficult. Life is difficult. Which path shall I choose? I recited the meeting code word, watching for a reaction. Rockey raised an eyebrow, smirking. Yes, it's me. He said he only went to the bar to complete a mission and didn't really want to see me. Can you believe how infuriating that is? After leaving the station, I took a cab to my friend Alice's place to vent. He even lectured me seriously for half an hour before letting me go, saying I should be cautious online. Sounds like he's dedicated, even looking out for you. Alice kept her eyes on her iPad, chuckling. Looks like beauty truly leads to trouble. Ancient wisdom is still spot on. I grabbed a cold drink from the fridge, gulping it down. Just how good-looking is he, to make even you, an experienced photographer, swoon? He's the first to make me feel this way. I'd only been casually drinking at the bar when he entered, but that one look bewitched me. Tall, lean, cropped hair, chiseled features, exuding righteousness. Even his crisp suit couldn't hide his rugged aura. It was insanely attractive. Listening to my description, Alice nodded knowingly. When an iron tree blooms, you can't miss it. I recalled his last words as I left the station. Miss Haley, I'm not interested in you. A look as if he were putting up a wall of ice. He's not interested, but I am. So I told him, doesn't matter, I'll make a move. Alice burst out laughing. Go for it. Did you set a follow-up meeting? Oh no. I gasped, realizing I hadn't exchanged contact info. Quickly, I found Aunt Mary and asked for his WeChat. I sent a friend request, only to be instantly rejected. It's Haley. Request declined. I'm the blind date Aunt Mary set you up with. Request declined. I'm the one from the bar who hit on you and got arrested. Request accepted. Me? Cool. Nearly 2 weeks had passed since Rocky added me. Besides that initial message, it's been radio silence. I'd been swamped with a shoot in a neighboring city, working with models all day. By the time I was free, it was late, so I didn't want to disturb him. But today, I finally finished, so I messaged him, hoping to grab dinner. Yet my message went unanswered. I was feeling down, and then it started pouring rain, as if the universe wanted to match my mood. The traffic on the highway was terrible, and I didn't get home until almost midnight. While waiting at a light, I checked my phone again. My message still lay there, alone. I started to wonder if he deleted me and sent a quick emoji as a test. It went through, adding me only to ignore my messages, playing hard to get. I like it. Just 2 minutes after I sent the voice message, I spotted Rocky at a nearby bus stop. Drenched, he stood there, the only person at the stop. I turned my car around and stopped in front of him. Rocky, get in. I rolled down the window and called out to him. He hesitated, wiping his face before walking over. Why are you here? There's no bus at this hour. I handed him some tissues to dry off. Just finished a mission nearby. Couldn't get a cab. With the heavy rain, rideshare lines were long. He accepted the tissues, muttering thanks as he dabbed himself dry. He wore a black shirt today, the soaked fabric clinging to his perfect physique. My eyes followed his hand as he dried himself, my gaze lingering wherever he wiped. Maybe I should help you. Rocky paused, looking up at me with wide, shining eyes. He shifted slightly toward the door. No need. Don't be shy. I love lending a helping hand. I licked my lips and pounced toward him. Don't. A stifled groan escaped from his tightly pressed lips. When I parked the car downstairs, I finally gathered the courage to speak to him. I'm sorry if I hurt you. Please don't be mad. Rocky's face turned a shade paler, looking like he'd been harshly treated, his fine brows knitted together. I'm not mad. Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? It might affect you later on. He glanced at me and said softly, I'm not that fragile. You're strong, but the injured spot might not be. I can take responsibility if needed, I muttered, lowering my head. He took a deep breath, holding back his irritation as he said, It's just my arm, Emmis. Haley, please don't overthink it. Can we go upstairs and take care of the wound now? Absolutely. He nodded, getting out of the car first. Covering my face in regret, I blamed myself for being blinded by his looks and failing to notice the gash on his arm. It was also because of his drenched black shirt. The blood had soaked into the fabric and didn't show. I'd pressed down on it too hard, causing a gush of blood to spill out. Panicking, I found a towel and wrapped it around his arm to stop the bleeding. He refused to go to a clinic or hospital, so the nearest place was my home, and I had no choice but to bring him there for treatment. Leading him into my place, I grabbed the first aid kit, catching him as he tried to take off his shirt with one hand. He wanted to sit but, with his wet pants, stood straight, immobile. Seeing this, I went to my room and dug out a pair of men's workout pants for him to change into. Once he changed, he sat on the couch, bare-chested, obediently extending his arm for me to bandage. Though I'd seen plenty of bodies at work, Rocky's figure was clearly something special. A long neck, sensual collarbones, and sculpted abs. Oh boy, my mind screamed. What are you looking at? His cool voice came from above me. Turning away to look out the window, I said, the rain is heavy. He was silent, but I knew he was watching me. Lowering my head, I quickly tied off the bandage on his arm, stood up, and packed the first aid kit. Are you hungry? Want a big apple? I was planning on treating you to dinner tonight. I intentionally emphasized a word, my gaze meeting his squarely. Rocky smirked, standing up. Due to his height, his closeness was slightly intimidating. He bent down, his face cold. Is this funny to you? Who taught you that? I smiled silently, hooking my arm around his neck. On tiptoes, I leaned in close to his ear and whispered, I picked it up naturally around you. If you want to learn, we can practice together. Rocky's ears visibly reddened as he pulled my arm away, turned quickly, and put on his damp shirt, leaving without looking back. Watching him flee, I finally let out a laugh. Look what I've discovered. Turns out he's so adorably innocent. Rocky, you left your pants at my place. This time, there was finally some movement in the chat window. After a long while, it said typing. After a pause, he sent me an address, with a note. Please mail them locally. I'll pay for the postage and any additional fees. No. Reason? I want to see you. How about a date, Officer Rocky? The other end went silent again, repeating the typing process. Through the screen, I could picture him with reddened ears, struggling to decide how to reply. Smiling, I kept typing, not wanting to push too hard. Also, I left something at your place. Let's meet and exchange them. A few minutes later, he replied with 3 words. Understood. Good night, Rocky. I released my finger after sending the voice message. Putting down my phone, I stretched out comfortably on the bed. Ding, a new message appeared. I turned my head to the screen, which lit up. "Good night," Rockey had texted. A smile crept onto my lips. "He just keeps growing on me." Rockey mentioned he was off today, so I took a cab in the afternoon to meet him. But midway, I got a call from him. He was called back to the station for an urgent meeting, so I had to change plans. A female officer at the desk greeted me, informing me that Rockey was still in the conference room, likely for another 10 minutes or so. I sat nearby, popped on my headphones, and scrolled through TikTok to pass the time. After about half an hour with no sign of Rockey, I was about to shut off the video and ask when my fingers accidentally hit refresh, and the latest post appeared. Rockey's handsome face showed up on screen, dressed in uniform, with the station as the backdrop. He stood in front of the camera, looking gentle and earnest. This time, his voice wasn't icy but warm, with a smile. When he smiles, the corners of his eyes curve up ever so slightly, like little hooks that tug at the heart. I watched, amused, realizing it was an anti-fraud educational video, posted just 5 minutes ago. It already had hundreds of comments and shares. Clicking into the comments, I nearly tripped over the flood of flirty messages. A thought crossed my mind, and I typed a comment. "Rockey is so handsome. That little mole on his waist is super sexy." It shot to the top with likes in no time. "How do you know that? DM me, please. I'm of age." Dog emoji. "Girl, are you guys dating? How's his stamina?" Drool emoji. "Man, all the good ones are taken. Disappointing, I'm out." The phone kept vibrating, so I put it on silent. Though there was a lot of teasing, there were also many who took notes seriously, with some even summarizing the key points. "Haley." Hearing Rockey's voice, I looked up at him. "Sorry to keep you waiting. I could have come out earlier, but they had me record a video." "I know. I just saw it. You did great." A strange light flashed quickly through his dark eyes at my praise. "Oh, by the way, you left these pants at my place last night." Here. At that, there was sudden silence, and the staff behind the desk all looked up, eyes gleaming with curiosity. Rockey took the bag from me in silence. "And mine?" I extended my hand to him with a smile. The officer's eyes widened, gasping softly with knowing smiles. Rockey turned and said, "It's not what you think." His colleagues quickly nodded, giving him looks of "we get it." Seeing this, he pressed his lips together helplessly and led me away under their prying gazes. He brought me to the parking lot, opened the door, and handed me the bag. I took it, but he seemed hesitant, as if he wanted to say something but didn't. "Is your arm any better?" He nodded. "Yes, thanks for the medicine last night." "How about a practical thanks instead of just words? What do you need me to do?" "How understanding. I like it. Come meet my parents." "What?" Rockey's expression shifted, startled by my words. I patted his shoulder. "Don't be so shocked. Pick up your jaw." He adjusted his face. "That's not happening. Pick something else." I clicked my tongue at his rejection. "You can't say no, you know. How else can I answer the girl who asked about your stamina?" "My stamina? Let's talk about that later. Back to business. My mom wants you over for dinner." Since the blind date a month ago, I hadn't updated her on any progress. She's been worried about my dating life, so think of this as a favor. "You want me to pretend to be your boyfriend? If you want it to be real, that's fine, too." He didn't reply. "Pretty please?" Softening my tone, I looked at him pleadingly. After a moment, his dark eyes looked at me. "Fine. Stop pouting." So he's into that. I made a mental note. As thanks for helping and to be mindful of his arm injury, I volunteered to drive, thoughtfully opening the passenger door and even buckling him in. While fastening the seatbelt, my hand brushed against his firm arm, feeling his solid muscles. A faint pine scent lingered around him. Every detail made him more irresistible. "Had enough?" As he spoke, Rockey's warm breath brushed against my skin. Clutching the seatbelt, I met his gaze boldly. "Not yet." Without a word, he reached out, his large, warm hand covering mine, guiding my hand as we fastened the seatbelt together. "Drive," he said. "Which kind?" I asked. Rockey grabbed my hand and placed it firmly on the steering wheel. Since I graduated from college, I've been renting a place near work for convenience. When I arrived at my mom's place, it was 6:30. As soon as Rockey walked in, she couldn't stop smiling, lavishing him with compliments. During dinner, she kept putting food on his plate, so much that half the dishes on the table ended up in his stomach, leaving him stuffed. Seeing his bowl empty, my mom brought out another pot of soup from the kitchen and filled it up for him. "I heard from Haley that you got hurt at work, so I made this soup to help you recover." Holding the soup, Rockey took a couple of sips, but couldn't manage any more, glancing at me pleadingly for help. I chuckled. "All right, "Mom, he's not a pig you're trying to fatten up." I took his bowl and drank the rest of the soup for him. Watching me, my mom gave a satisfied smile. "Seeing you two get along so well, your dad would be so happy if he were here." "Haley's father?" Rockey said my name naturally, as if he'd said it many times before. My mom realized I hadn't told him about my father yet. "Well, I'll let Haley tell you about it. That way, you two can understand each other more deeply." She took the dishes to the kitchen, sneaking a wink at me as she left. My dad was a firefighter. When I was 7, he sacrificed his life to save others. For a long time, I was afraid of fire, but eventually, I overcame it. My mom raised me on her own, and now she hopes to find me a good partner who can take care of me. Listening to my casual recounting, Rocky's eyes showed a hint of sadness. I moved my chair closer to him and whispered, "You're the first person I've brought home." Hearing this, he blinked, his long lashes fluttering. "Faking a relationship to deceive an elder isn't right," he suddenly said. I raised an eyebrow. "So, what's your suggestion?" Rocky's gaze shifted slightly. "Make it real." The surprise came so fast, I nearly missed it. "Was there something in that soup?" "Are you sure?" I asked. "I don't go back on my words," he replied. It wasn't until we got in the car and left that I fully processed what had just happened. Rockey had actually agreed to be my boyfriend. I glanced at him, focused on driving, and felt like this dinner was totally worth it. My phone beeped, and I opened it to see a message from my mom. "Did I do okay tonight?" He didn't notice it was a last-minute setup, did he? I smiled and replied, "You were perfect, and I got a surprise out of it. Love you, Mom." This dinner was an excuse I came up with on the spot to get closer to him. On the surface, I said it was to ask Rockey for a favor, but actually, I secretly asked my mom to help me. At most, I thought he'd just get to know me better and maybe think of me more fondly. Normally, he's so cool and distant, yet he doesn't resist when I tease him. Could it be he's had feelings for me all along, despite claiming he's not interested? I propped my chin up, staring at him with a not-so-innocent look. "Wipe your drool. We're at your place." Without looking away, he stopped the car and handed me a paper bag from the back seat. As I reached to take it, he held it tight, not letting go. Noticing my puzzled look, he slowly asked, "These pants, they aren't yours, are they?" They were a gift." "From whom?" "A male model I used to work with." His fingers tightened a bit. "Why would he give you pants?" I suppressed a laugh. "Not just me, he gave them to all the girls he's connected with." "Haley, are you so desperate that you'd want a jerk like that?" He looked down at me, his jawline tense. "Rockey, you're jealous." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. "Yes, the pants are good quality. You could ask him for some if you like." He looked at me in disbelief, as if I were speaking nonsense. I handed him my phone, which displayed a business card on the screen. In bold letters, it read, "E-Chain Clothing Studio." He recently designed a couple's sportswear set and gave samples to friends to try on. I smiled, explaining further, "Before you, I hadn't officially dated anyone, so these pants just stayed in my closet." Realizing I was joking, Rockey was momentarily at a loss for words. "You did that on purpose." "Yes, I love seeing you jealous. It makes me want to kiss you." As the words left my mouth, I undid my seatbelt and slowly leaned toward him. Stopping just a fist's length from his face, I looked up to see his reaction, but I didn't make the next move right away. His gaze was deep, slowly shifting from my eyes to my lips. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw his Adam's apple move. Smiling, I looked at him. Suddenly, he gently pressed his hand over my eyes, blocking my view. The next moment, I felt the warmth of his lips on mine. My heart skipped a beat. It turned out kisses could feel this joyful. When it ended, I stared at his slightly flushed, soft lips. "Would you like to come up for a glass of water?" He paused, understanding my unspoken invitation. "Haley, please show some restraint." Disappointed, I pursed my lips. "Oh, all right." Unable to lure him upstairs, I reluctantly let him go. I thought now that we were officially together, we'd get more time together. But because of work, whenever I was free, he wasn't, and vice versa. When we finally had time, he'd always be called away for some emergency. Other couples date leisurely. We race against the clock. Just recently, he called to say he could rest for a few days and invited me out. But I accepted an outdoor project I'd been offered ages ago, so I had to go on a business trip. Sitting in the car, I ruffled my hair in frustration. How long do I have to keep being a ninja? I silently swore that once I was done with this project, I'd come back and tackle him for real. I'm not sure if it's because I miss Rockey too much, but when I saw someone else on the beach at sunset, I thought I was hallucinating. Until, "Aren't you coming down?" This isn't a hallucination. He speaks, and he's glaring at me. Looking down, I realize that I'm clinging to a shirtless male model, both hands and feet wrapped around him, and his hands are on my waist. Heaven knows, I was just demonstrating a pose to a new female model next to us. Don't misunderstand. Let me explain. I quickly jumped down, stretching out my hand towards him in a dramatic plea. Though, honestly, it sounds kind of absurd. We're shooting for a swimsuit brand. I was just showing the rookie some poses. He lets out a noise from his nose. I grab his hand and imitate his. To affirm my point. Seeing my silly face, he gives a resigned, affectionate smile. Just then, a woman in a dress walks over. Seeing our interlocked hands, she chuckles. So, that's why Rockey picked this spot for the team retreat, to meet his girlfriend. I realize it's the policewoman who had received me earlier. Rockey doesn't deny it. He just smiles openly. Then, how about you join us for a barbecue later, sister-in-law? We've got tons of food. Sure, I'll come over as soon as I'm done here. I let go of his hand, tiptoe to kiss his cheek, and then rush back to continue the shoot. After more than an hour of work, I bring the equipment back to my room at the rented inn, change clothes, and head downstairs. Rockey's colleagues warmly welcome me, and we all chat, barbecue, and enjoy some drinks together, creating a cheerful, relaxed atmosphere. After eating, someone suggests we play a game to liven things up. The rule is that each person has to say something they've never done before, but others likely have. If someone else has done it, they drink. The fun of this game lies in discovering all the quirky things others have done. When it's my turn, I say, I've never had a secret crush. I've always been direct and proactive in pursuing people I like. To my surprise, everyone else drinks. Next, it's Rockey's turn. He thinks for a moment, then says, I've never written a love letter, only received them. Everyone teases him in unison, but still takes a drink. After a few rounds, most people are pretty tipsy. I turn to look at Rockey, who, sensing my gaze, meets my eyes. His face is slightly flushed, and his eyes are hazy with a bit of intoxication. Never written a love letter but secretly liked someone? Mr. Rockey, you have some explaining to do. He pulls my hand to his lips and gives a soft smile. Come on, if you resist, it'll be worse. Confess and things will be easier. I wiggle one finger free from his hand and poke his warm cheek. Yes, ma'am. He stands, pulling me along towards the shoreline, taking a slow stroll on the sandy beach. When I was in high school, I liked a girl. He begins softly, holding my hand. Back then, I didn't look so good, but she was really pretty and talented, admired by many. I never had the courage to confess. I pause. Wait, which school did you go to? He says a name, but it's not the one I expected. And then, she left school, and I never got to talk to her. So that secret crush ended before it even began, he says with a hint of regret. Do you regret it? For not having the courage to take action, missing out on a chance for love? For not reconnecting with her, and instead meeting me? No. He stops, looking at me with gentle eyes. I'm grateful to have met you, with no regrets. This rare confession pulls me out of the slight sadness that had crept in and fills me with happiness once again. Whoosh, bang, bang. A few brilliant fireworks explode above us, lighting up the sky. The beach, the fireworks, my lover, everything is utterly romantic. While everyone is lost in this beautiful moment, no one notices black smoke billowing from a room in the inn behind us. Fire, look over there. A shout of alarm rises from the crowd. Everyone turns to see thick smoke pouring from a third-floor room of the inn. The fire spreads quickly, flames leaping up the building. The piercing noise, the bright flames, it all overlaps with memories in my mind. I stand frozen, chest heaving as my breathing grows unsteady. Haley. A painful grip on my shoulder snaps me out of my trance, and I look into Rockey's anxious gaze. Are you okay? He presses his hand to my cold face, worry filling his eyes. I nod to show him I'm fine. He exhales a bit in relief. Stay here. I'll go make a call. As he finds a quiet spot to make a call, I turn back to look at the inn. That room. Oh no. It's right next to mine. The camera gear and my laptop are still in my room, with all my work files. I can't afford to lose them. Glancing back at Rockey, who's watching me while on the phone, I make a split-second decision and dash towards the inn. Haley, stop. Rockey's urgent, angry shout follows me. He quickly scans the area, grabs a large beach blanket from a nearby couple, and runs to the shore. After soaking it in seawater, he throws it over his shoulders and sprints towards the burning inn. As I gather my equipment, I catch a glimpse of the fire truck through the window. Racing out, I nearly collide with Rockey, who looks at me, furious. Do you have a death wish? His expression is livid as he wraps the wet blanket around me and takes all my equipment from my arms. As we pass the burning room, I stop in my tracks. Wait, did you hear that? Beyond the crackling of the flames, there's a faint sound, like a cry. Rocky and I exchange a look, and he releases my hand, kicking open the door of the burning room. Through the choking smoke, he finds a child hiding behind a tub full of water, crying and shaking. Using nearby materials, I grabbed a towel, soaked it, and had the child cover their nose and mouth. Rocky led the way, and I followed closely behind, holding the child. After running a short distance, my eyes started to sting from the smoke, turning red and watering non-stop. As we went down the stairs, my vision blurred from tears, and I missed a step. Before I could scream, I was already falling. Instinctively, I shielded the child's head, using my body as a cushion as we tumbled down the steps. As I passed by Rocky, he reached out, trying to catch me. Unfortunately, he underestimated my fall's speed. An untimely thought popped into my head. Oh, goodbye. My love, tonight I'm setting sail. Don't worry about me. Just as my head was about to hit the wall, a pair of gloved hands in navy blue pulled me back in time. Enduring the pain throughout my body, I looked up. The firefighters had arrived. The result of that tumble? A broken right shin. After being taken to the hospital and getting a cast, Rocky took me straight to his place. My mom saw the video online and called me, panicked about my safety. I reassured her, knowing she was out traveling with Aunt Mary and couldn't take care of me. So, I asked Rocky to look after me during my recovery. To spare him from constantly shuttling back and forth, he decided to have me stay with him instead. This way, you can rest while recovering, and we can still see each other every day. Isn't it a blessing in disguise? Carefully lifting my leg onto the sofa, I watched as Rocky took notes on the food supplements my mom sent him. A blessing in disguise? At my words, he put down his phone, his expression serious. What if there were explosives inside? What if the fire spread suddenly? What if I hadn't gone in to find you? Have you thought about the consequences? Did I ever tell you that your stern face while lecturing is quite intimidating? I shrank back, lowering my head sheepishly. Haley, don't play with your life. I knew he was worried about me, and I understood my reckless actions had really scared him. Yes, I know I was wrong. I'll definitely be more cautious next time. I nodded earnestly, showing I'd taken his words to heart. I think you need to learn a few things. Rocky reached out, gently touching my cast-covered leg. Huh, what kind of things? I'm still injured, this doesn't feel appropriate. Rocky, watching him take a deep breath and grit his teeth as he left, I was left scratching my head. Why was he suddenly so mad? I ended up staying at Rocky's place for nearly a month. He took excellent care of me, so much that I even put on a bit of weight. It was both wonderful and torturous. I'm not sure if you'll understand. Imagine having a gorgeous man lingering around you daily. We ate and lived together, with hugs and kisses always in abundance. Yet, every time, he'd refuse to go any further, using my injury as an excuse to hold back. After holding out as a monk for so long, I was on the verge of letting go of all worldly desires. Finally, the light at the end of the tunnel appeared. Today, I had a follow-up at the hospital, and they removed the cast. I prepared a candlelit dinner, unable to stop myself from grinning. Rocky, tonight, you're mine. I messaged him, hoping he'd make it back home smoothly after work. With everything ready, I nestled into the sofa to watch videos while waiting. Unknowingly, I dozed off, only waking to the sound of him coming in. Seeing his wet hair, I realized it had started raining outside. Hurry, take a shower so you don't catch a cold. Taking his coat, I gently pushed him towards the bathroom. All right, he smiled, patting me on the head. He had barely gone in when the bathroom door opened again. Why'd you come back out? I quickly hid the candle behind my back. Forgot my clothes. He glanced at my actions, his eyes betraying a hint of amusement. I'll grab them for you. Now, go shower. Oh, and could you find a razor too? This one seems broken. He held up the razor. I agreed to everything and jogged to his room, opening the closet to get his clothes. After searching the room for a while, I still couldn't find a razor. I went back to ask him, and he said it might be in the study. I finally found it in a box in one of the drawers of his desk. As I closed the drawer, something got jammed. Looking inside, I noticed a corner of a photo album sticking out. Afraid of damaging the photos, I pulled it out and flipped through it. A familiar photo slipped out. It was me, back in high school, posing after winning an English competition. Turning it over, I found a line written in familiar handwriting. If you ask when longing will end, it will only be when we meet again. The date? The summer I was in my second year of high school. The worn edges showed it had been looked at often. How did Rocky get this? Could he have known me all along? Thinking carefully, it all started making sense. Did you find it? The study door opened, and Rocky walked in, drying his hair. Suppressing my excitement, I held up the photo and looked at him. I found a secret. His eyes fell on my hand, emotions swirling in his gaze. I didn't mean to hide it from you. We sat facing each other on the sofa, and I prepared to hear the whole story. Looking at him, I noticed a hint of embarrassment as he rubbed the photo, his ears turning slightly red. Under my insistent gaze, he finally started to explain everything. He had seen me way back in high school. When I went to his school for a competition, he was a contestant too. The first time we met, he thought, "That girl's smile is so beautiful." As we shook hands before the match, he noticed my hand was soft and smelled nice. He said later on, after I beat him in English, his strongest subject, he took an interest in me. "So, you're that top English competition champ from 7th High?" "Yes." Hearing his story, I was amazed. No wonder I hadn't recognized him. He had changed a lot. Back then, he was thin and dark, with bangs covering his eyes, introverted and reluctant to talk to anyone. Now he was tall, cold, and strong. It explained why he agreed to be with me so easily. It turns out, this had all been planned for a long time. He said after Aunt Mary showed him a photo of me, he immediately agreed to the blind date. It was just unlucky timing that I couldn't meet him and instead got called to work overtime. As fate would have it, that case involved me. When he found me at the bar, he hadn't expected my reaction to be so strong. "But wasn't that exactly what you wanted?" I teased him, smiling. "True," he admitted without hesitation this time. His honesty made me laugh, and I remembered tonight's preparations. I beckoned him closer. Sliding my hand under his shirt, I rested my palm on his firm abs. Staring into his eyes, I leaned in and kissed the corner of his mouth. He smiled indulgently, letting my hands roam freely. Then he suddenly lifted me up, carrying me to the bedroom in just a few strides. That night, the rain poured endlessly. It kept us awake, leaving even the air damp and fragrant. It was a pity for that candlelit dinner. The end. If you like Puppy's story, please follow and like it. Updated every morning at 9 a.m.